Hi, this is Nicole Peterson with Picket Studios, and I'm here today and I want to show you a special kit that we have just for Christmas. It is our watercolor card kit, and I did do this in a previous video with on a virtual event, which you might have seen it with 3 different colors that looks like this: red, the red watercolor, green watercolor, yellow watercolor with white paste. However, a lot of people were interested in this card, how I did this one, how it's green with yellow, and I have used the rose gold glaze. So this is the one that I'm going to go ahead and do today. So this is the kit. It's the same exact kit as before. However, I am going to go ahead and do this green card for you rather than the one with 3 different colors and the white glaze. Today I'm going to use the gold glaze. So let me show you the kit. The kit has 7 different items in it. It is normally $55. However, on our website, it is marked down to $44.99. And then you never know, we might have a shipping special going on. My husband loves to turn those on and off the website, so it might have shipping in there also, or maybe depending on when you're watching this. So our kit has 7 items. First, you're going to receive, this is called Fancy Christmas Sentiments. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sentiments, and they say Merry Christmas, Season's Greetings, Feliz Navidad, the reason for the season, Happy New Year, Peace on Earth. So depending on when you're watching this video, this is being released August 14th of 2020. So depending on when you're watching this video, it might already be released, or if you're watching it before August 14th, 2020, it might not be released yet. So you do get this 4x6 stamp set. You will receive a 2-ounce jar of our paper glaze. This one is called Snowdrop White. Then you're going to also receive a stencil. This stencil is called Candlelight Stencil SC-175. It is a 6x6 Christmas themed stencil. You're going to receive a Christmas mix of our sequins, okay, with the cute little compacts. Then you're also going to receive 4 watercolors. Now, depending on when you're watching this, these are brand new, and as of right now, they're only included in this kit. We do not have them for sale separated from the kit, and honestly, we have no idea where we're gonna go with these watercolors. So I produced these just for these 2 videos, and I wanna go ahead and show you using them how I created the green and yellow version. But this time I'm going to use paper glaze that is golden rose, because there already is one out there that has the snowdrop paper glaze with these colors, but I wanted to show you what it looked like with gold. So I'm gonna go ahead and move these off to the side. And the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open our stencil, and I already have one opened. So we are going to start with a piece of white watercolor paper. Now I do need this this project does need to have a pretty high-end watercolor paper, just because it is going to take on a whole lot of water, and I always say the more abuse you're giving a piece of paper, the more high-end that it needs to be of watercolor paper. So we don't want to use your regular run-of-the-mill cheapy stuff. All right, so here's our stencil. Now I have applied Pixie Spray by Thermoweb on the back of my stencil, and you're going to see that it will stick down very well to my piece of paper. But I am also going to go ahead and add a little bit of tape, and I'm using this tape to hold down the stencil as well as hold down the paper, because you just never know, things like to move around, right? Now, if you notice, this stencil is, the outer side of this stencil is 6x6. However, the inside of the actual design was created to fit an A2 card front. So, and you can see my stencil's well loved. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our paper glaze and a spatula. Now, if you notice, when you open your paper glaze, there are 2 ounces in your paper glaze, and you can see that it's a creamy, smooth glaze that is meant to add shine, shape, and texture to paper. You can use it through stencils. It is water-based. We make this in the USA, and it dries extremely fast. So you do want to always make sure you have time to go clean your stencil and any tools that you use right away, because it will dry and stick to your tools as well as your stencil. So I'm going to take some of it, and then I'm just going to put my lid sitting on top of it just to keep it safe. And I always say, when you're working with a stencil, you know what, just go for it. Try not to play with it too much. I find if I overthink what I'm doing when I'm applying any type of medium like this, I will end up goofing it up just because I thought about it too much, overthought. All right, so I'm just, if you notice, applying it. Now the thickness of this paper glaze, it is totally up to you. Like I mentioned before, it dries extremely fast. So we finished applying the rose gold paper glaze. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I put my lid on nice and tight. Then I'm going to lift up the green tape. Remember, this dries really fast. I'm gonna go ahead and lift up the green tape. And then I like to actually hold my paper in my hands when I remove my stencil, and I like to do it nice and fast. Now, right now, I'm going to go run and clean my stencil off, because this is drying already, along with my tool. So here, if you notice, I did go ahead and do this on a piece of paper that's larger than A2. Now, the reason why I did that is because I like to have a lot of area to decide how I'm going to cut my card down. So right here, we're gonna go ahead and let this dry. Now, I live in South Louisiana, so this will probably be completely dry within 20 minutes. If I actually went and put it outside, it might be like 10 minutes. But we're gonna go ahead and move this out the way, and by the magic of TV, ta-da, we have one dry. So this one I did earlier, and I did it right before I went run to town, so it's probably been about 4 hours, but normally it takes like 20 minutes to go ahead and get the paper glaze completely dry enough to where you can see, you know, it's nice and dry. So it's able to be manipulated and wet. So right here I have 2 watercolor brushes. One of them has is a larger round, and one of them is smaller. And then I have a palette. Right here, I'm going to put the palette in front of me, an empty palette, and I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 different watercolors. Now, the gold one, you have to make sure you really give it a nice good shake. So this one is called Liquid Gold. We're gonna go ahead, and it is a drop, it's glass with a glass dropper. And I'm going to go ahead and put some right there into that little hole. Then I have, you're gonna get candy red, also comes in your kit. However, we're not using candy red, but I will go ahead and put a little bit in the palette just to show you what it looks like, even though we're not gonna be using candy red in this video. You are going to get what's called pine green. Give it a little shake. Now, I called it pine green because I find that when I was choosing colors for our watercolors, I chose this one as our first green to release because it has a little hint of blue in it, which I really like. So we also are in your kit, you're going to get sunny yellow, and we're going to go ahead and put some of that in here. Now, in our other video where I used all 4 colors, I actually took green and yellow and created a 5th color, which is a little bit more limey like. But today we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave the green the color that it is, because I want more of those blue tones to show up. So if you look right here, here's the card again. So what I'm going to do first is, because I want yellow in certain areas, we're going to start with yellow, and then we're going to come add green on top. So I'm going to start with a smaller round brush, and I'm just going to wet this. Now I do have this little container thing with water in it, which I recently discovered. So I'm just going to put some water in those little wells. Then I'm gonna wet my brush and come in here and get this nice and runny. Now, just for the purpose of this video, I am going to go ahead and allow my water to be dirty. And the reason I'm doing that is it makes it easier for you guys to see. So right here, I've tinted my water a little bit yellow just because it makes it easier. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm only going to add water to the areas where I want the yellow to drop right now. Let me move this right here. So I'm only adding water where I want to drop. I'm gonna come back and drop the yellow. So in all these little crevices, just going to add water. Now, you know, one super cool fact about watercolor is that the watercolor will actually stop where the water stops, which is a really cool factor of watercolors. So that's one reason why I like to wet my paper first, because the watercolor will only bleed or move into areas that I have wetted. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this yellow. I'm gonna put right here, I'm gonna grab it out the well, and I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna start touching, okay? So I'm gonna come in. Now, this watercolor, you can use it straight out the bottle. It does not need to be watered down. However, you can always add water to it to change the hue or the tone of the watercolor, the actual color. So we're just coming in here. I'm going to drop some yellow. I'm gonna get this a little bit more wet. Now, if you notice, this is gold paper glaze, so it's not going to take on the color. But when someone did ask me if the watercolor will change the color of the paper glaze, and yes, it will. not too much where it will alter it where you can't tell it's white, but you can tell, like in this orange card, how it did take on a little bit of the yellow on top of it. But here the gold is darker than the yellow, so you're not going to be able to see any watercolor on top of it. So I'm going to stop there with the yellow. I am going to come in here and make sure I get yellow everywhere that I want it to be in all these little crevices. All right, so next what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change brushes, and I'm going to grab a fatter brush, and I'm going to use this fatter brush because it will help me smear or apply water a lot faster now that I'm going to come back and add green. So I am being extremely generous with my water, and it's okay if this yellow is running a little bit. You know, green always has a little touch of yellow in it. So I am coming in and adding water all over. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my green, and I'm going to wet the green a little bit right here on my palette. So you see how it's a beautiful green, and it has just a little touch of blue in it, which I love. So watch how cool this is. This paper is wet. So once I put this down, the watercolor, it just bleeds out. I don't know how else to explain. I absolutely love this. When I'm watercoloring and I touch a dark color where I can see exactly where it's moving. I'm gonna add a little bit of water and come in here and just allow that green. Now remember, we do need to pay close attention to the areas that are yellow, because I have a tendency to go a little extra, add a little bit too much and let it run over. So we do have to leave our yellow area there. And I'm gonna come in and just add all of this green into here. And I'm using the green straight from the bottle. It's not watered down. But you can see how this green does have a little hue of blue in it. Now right in this area, you can see a little green got on top of that gold paper glaze, but I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna stress over it. I am gonna come out and just allow this to blend out. Now this is super easy watercoloring. This is a really great technique to learn how watercolor works. You know, I always say watercolor is, you know, one of the easiest things you can learn to play with. I know it's very intimidating at first. However, it's very freeing. It does allow you, especially this loosey, I always call this loosey-goosey watercoloring, especially this type of loose watercoloring, because we're just pretty much allowing it to go where it wants to go. Now we are keeping it tracked in a little bit in certain areas just with the yellow, but for most of it, we're allowing the green to just go where it wants to go. Now this card with just the two colors is a lot quicker to produce and reproduce. The version with red in it, so you have to pay a little bit closer attention because you don't want to create mud with the green and red. But here, it's just two shades, and we're really not doing a lot of blending with them. Now, we will get blending happening when we add our gold though. But right here, if you wanted to come in here and add a little green into it, you can, but you know, trying to highlight that certain area so I'm not gonna go overboard with the green. I can go overboard very, very easily. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna add a little bit of water just to help it move. And if you notice, there's a little bit of green on top of this gold. So I'm just gonna come in here and drop some water in it. Just to, oop, there you go. Now, if you got a little green that moves like mine did right there, it's okay. You can just quickly grab a paper towel or a baby wipe and you can just soak it up. If you're in the South, we call this sopping up. It's like sopping up gravy with the biscuit. So I just removed some of that green, but I am gonna go back and fill in a little bit more right there. Then I'm gonna rinse my brush and come back and drop some yellow. A little bit more yellow. I do like it runny, so I'm just adding some drops of water. This is definitely a Christmas card that you can do with your kids. I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, I would never do that with my kid. This is like so wet and just all over the place, but it's not. When it dries, it's a fabulous technique and it really adds a punch of fun color. So now what we're gonna do, since we have all the green and yellow, and you see these areas right here that are green that are kind of moving around. If you want to go in and just clean up a little bit of that water, you can. I'm going to actually just clean up down there because it was moving a little bit. But if you notice, it did take out some of the color. So now what we're going to do with my same brush, I'm actually going to change my water and get some clean water. And I'm going to grab this gold. Now this gold, I called it liquid gold because when you see it, it literally looks like liquid. So I'm gonna come in here and I am going to drop gold all over. Now here's where you gotta be a little careful because you can accidentally get gold where your yellow is that you were not intending to. So I am gonna come in here and add gold to the yellow first. So here's, I love this liquid gold. It's just, that's why I called it liquid gold. It's just amazing. It's so creamy, and it keeps its shininess, which I like. So I'm coming in here and I'm gonna add all of this gold. Right here, there you go. Just move that one over, and I did get a little green in my gold well, but it's okay. Now, some days I've been crazy enough to actually just take it directly from the bottle and drop it in. You can do that. Drop it onto your project. However, it will dry, so we want to make sure we come back in and immediately add water to that and move it around. You know, those of us that are impatient. Now, this project, I'm going to actually allow it to dry, and then after it's dry, I'm going to come back in later and add more color to it. Just because whenever you watercolor, your first coat is usually just a layer to get color down, and then you always come back in and add color, exactly the colorant of it, the pigment of it, back in areas that you want. This gold is really pretty. All right, so that is pretty much the coloring of this. Just touching up, adding a little bit more gold, and you can always, of course, go back and add more gold later. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to move my palette. I'm gonna move my project, and I wanna show you the card that you can turn this into. So in a little while after that's dry, and you know, guys, I allowed this to dry what's called organically, and what I mean by that is I did not take a heat gun to it. Can you use a heat gun? Absolutely. The heat gun will cause the paper glaze to bubble up, but you know what? That's a really cool technique, and if you like that, go for it. However, I went ahead and allowed the first version to dry. Then I went back and added more green in, and then finally I came back and added little flicks of white. So if you can see that, you can see I went ahead and added teeny tiny little flicks of white, and I stamped with Season's Greetings. And then I went back and added some sequins. So let me go over the kit with you one more time. So you are going to receive the 4x6 stamp sets that's called Fancy Christmas Sentiments. You're going to receive 4 watercolors, and remember, these as of now are not sold separately. You're going to receive the white paper glaze, which is called Snowdrop Whites. Now you can buy the Golden Rose separate if you like, but I wanted to, but the kit comes with the whites. And then last, you are going to get a stencil that comes with it. Oh, there it is. And then you get the stencil. So there's, oh, and I almost forgot. And you get a whole compact of sequins. So you, oh, and look how cool this is. So this compact, actually, when you open it, if you notice, it lays flat. So what you can do is you can lay this flat, and instead of going find something to put your sequins in to pick, you can just put your sequins in the top of it and use it like that to grab your sequins instead of having a separate container. It's really cool. And then they just go back in, and you close your lid and you're done. So you get 7 different items in this kit. The 4 watercolors, which are not sold separately, the white paper glaze, the stencil, and the 4x6 stamp set. Normally this is priced at $55. However, on our website it is $44.99, and you never know, there could be something else going on whenever you watch this video. So again, my name is Nicole Peterson, and I'm the owner and designer of Picket Studios, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and have a great day.